So I've imagined myself talking in church many times before, mostly because my father is a regular lecturer in his church and has written a book on how to speak clearly in church. But when Jim talked to me regarding speaking about thankfulness, I knew I was in trouble. Because thankful is not really my go-to mode. It's not my default. You know, I can be thankful when someone asks me to, but usually no one asks you to more than once a year. And besides, life is full of things to be worried about or afraid of. And how can we be thankful in the middle of reading a newspaper, for example? Something helped me as I prepared for this, and it was a video that Angie may want to talk about later, so I get to go first, which is nice. But it was a video from Angie's work about thankfulness. It was a TED Talk. And it's called The Happy Secret to Better Work, or you can find it by searching for Positivity TED Talk. And please check it out. Please do look at it. It sounded like self-help, so I was suspicious. I generally have subscribed to this notion that being a man, I'm not supposed to look for help, even if I'm the one providing it. You know, self-help. Anyway, I got over that. And I brought myself to watch it, and it actually caused a very profound reaction in me. And one that I hope others will try and replicate. And so I'm going to tell you about it. This is mostly a story about that. I decided to do an experiment on myself. It was about thankfulness, and I was going to be asked to speak about thankfulness, so I decided to take a baseline negativity index of myself and figure out what are the things that I spend my time when I'm thinking negatively. What is it about? And I came up with a, well, actually it was difficult at first, because for the first 3 minutes you come up with very surfacey things, and you say, well, you know, I stubbed my toe. And it's things that happen to you on that day. One thing I learned from the TED Talk is that the things that happen to you make up only 10% of your attitude. And that the rest of it is either choice or some other magic bullet. And so, after I took a 15-minute walk, and I talked to my phone and recorded all the things that I was feeling negative about, or I could remember in recent memory having felt negative about, so that I could see whether my brain chemistry was truly changed by the exercise prescribed in the video, which was to think of 3 thankful things every day. And so I started doing that, and then last night I sat down to compare the 2 lists and see if there was anything meaningful that had happened. So what I learned is a combination of things from the experiment and things from the video. I'll share them with you. First, it's hard to force yourself to think negatively. There are the surface things that bother you, and most days that's enough that you don't want to go deeper. That there's enough things that keep you maintaining your regular level of stress that is expected of you in society. And then it's difficult to get beyond those things. And the second is it's very hard to force yourself to think positively. And I would say harder depending on how much you practice one or the other. So most people can think of at least one thing that happened in that day, or maybe 1 or 2 canned responses about things they generally feel positive about in case somebody asks them to. But 90 things. So you're supposed to think of 3 things a day for 30 days. And at the end of that experiment, you have shifted your outlook, along with a couple other activities. But 90 things is pretty hard to come up with. And I have to admit, I didn't succeed thoroughly. I did keep doing it. But it takes a hard time to come up with things that you're thankful for that don't fall into that 10% of what has happened to you recently. And then the next thing I learned is that happiness is a moving target. That we express this idea that to be happy, you first need to just get something successfully done, or be something, or achieve a certain amount of excellence at something, like playing the piano. Do I get to feel happy about playing the piano as a 6-year-old and I've just learned a song? Well, there's another song. I have to learn the next song. So do I get to be happy first? Well, I don't know. The benchmark's there. You've already been told what your next thing is. How about if you work in sales? You reach your quota. The next thing that happens is you get a higher quota, which is great because it keeps challenging us. But where is the celebration? Is it in your work environment? Is it in your school? Is it in your piano lesson? I seriously hope so. And then the fleeting happiness that comes from a job well done is soon chased by something bigger and more stressful that you need to pursue to reach the ideal, which is happy, as opposed to just the general practice of the everyday thing that is happy. So if you try and shift that idea and say that before reaching success you have to be happy, and flip that around, then you start doing things that are really weird, like leaving work on time, like taking breaks, like standing up and stretching if you work at a computer. You are thinking actively, not about the goal, but about how you're approaching it. And that changes everything. Have you ever heard before that if you stopped getting a coffee in the morning, you'd save $120 that month? How many times have you heard that, I should say, because I do lots of nods. What would it change about your day if you instead said, I am thankful that I have enough money to have coffee twice a week, or 3 times a week. That kind of coffee actually tastes better, because it's not flavored with guilt. And then last, but certainly not least, I learned that the things that cause me stress, anxiety, annoyance, anger, are exactly the same things on my thankful list, which was really weird to notice then. I'll give you one example. One thing that causes me a lot of distraction from being mindful and being thankful on a daily basis is dealing with back pain. And so that's one of the things I placed on my worry sheet. And 2 times this week, one of my comments that I was texting to myself, one thankful thing was that I had gone a week without back pain. And then 2 weeks later, I had another thankful that said I'd gone 2 weeks without back pain. And those are actually a different 2 weeks. And I've only been doing this for 1 month. So I think this is probably one of the longer stretches where it hasn't been a preoccupation all the time, or at least in the back of my mind. So that's great for me, and that's followed by 5 other major topics that I won't share right now, but I'd be happy to tell you about if you want to talk with me. So the secret here is that both lists are made up of the things that are most important to me. And whether I'm thinking positively about them or negatively is, here you insert a positivity quote, and you say something about, like, you choose positivity, and then you choose it again, and choose it again. And I have to disagree based on my experience here. You actually have your mode that you resort to, and that impacts everything. You don't have to make choices, because how many choices do you make a day? How many choices do you make while you drive to work? How many choices do you make when you are, I didn't think about this part. How many choices do you make when you're trying to parent? Are they positive choices? Do you choose every single time to think about positivity first and then make your decision? You actually build a habit and you shift the way that you think. And so I would challenge you, as you prepare for Thanksgiving, to think about 3 thankful things a day. And it's only 1 week. I actually got through the first week perfectly. I had a nice 15 things to be thankful for at the end of the week, so you can do it. And also don't forget to watch that positivity talk. And that's all.